Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The hotel room smelled faintly of jasmine and warm linen. I had just slipped into the silk robe he loved, the one that clung to my skin like a secret only he knew. The dim light from the bedside lamp painted soft golden shadows across the bed where I stretched out, feeling my pulse quicken with every passing second. My husband was in the adjoining suite, getting ready for the night we had both been teasing each other about all day. Then came the soft footsteps on the carpet, slow and deliberate. My heart skipped. I turned my head, expecting his familiar smile, but instead another figure filled the doorway, taller, broader. His presence sent a ripple of heat through the room before a single word left his lips. Our eyes locked just for a moment, long enough to feel the air shift between us, heavy and dangerous. I swallowed hard, but my body betrayed me. I didn't move. His gaze dipped briefly, lingering on the tie of my robe before finding my eyes again, darker this time, like he was holding back something that wanted to escape. "Wrong room," I whispered, barely able to breathe. He didn't answer. He just stepped closer, his shoes silent against the plush carpet until I could feel the faint warmth of his body just inches from my own. My pulse roared in my ears, a wild drumbeat I couldn't control. One move and I'd brush against him. One move and everything would change. Behind the wall, laughter floated from the other suite, hers. The woman who trusted me. The woman who didn't know I was frozen under the weight of her man's stare. And then his fingers grazed the edge of the robe's belt. Not pulling, just touching. Just enough to make every nerve in my body scream for more. My breath hitched, my lips parted, and for one reckless second, I didn't care if anyone heard me. The door behind him clicked shut. The sound of the door locking echoed in my chest louder than any heartbeat. He didn't speak. Neither did I. Silence stretched between us, thick enough to taste. My fingers clutched the edge of the sheet, not from fear, but from something far more dangerous. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We were two married couples on a weekend getaway, celebrating anniversaries we both claimed were strong. That's what I told myself when my husband suggested this trip. When I smiled at her over dinner, pretending not to notice the way her laughter made him lean closer. Truth. Our marriage had cracks, hairline fractures only I could feel. Nights where he rolled away without a word. Days where our kisses felt rehearsed like scenes from a play we'd performed too many times. I missed the way he used to look at me like I was a secret he couldn't wait to unwrap. And then there was him, her husband. The man who now stood by my bed, eyes burning with something I had no name for. From the first night, I noticed his glances. Harmless, I told myself. Friendly, maybe flattering. But tonight, those glances turned into something sharper. Something that cut through every boundary I thought I had. I remembered dinner. How his knee brushed mine under the table. How I didn't move away. The soft gasp I swallowed when his hand studied my chair and lingered a second too long. How his voice dipped low when he said my name like tasting it changed him. Now here we were alone. No laughter. No polite smiles. Just raw silence and the electric hum of temptation. "Why are you here?" My voice cracked like the question wasn't ready to be born. He stepped closer, shadows dancing across his jawline, making him look carved from something I shouldn't touch. "Maybe I should ask you the same," he murmured, his tone deep, velvet smooth, but carrying a weight I felt in my bones. I should have told him to leave. I should have reminded him of her, of my husband, of the promises hanging between these walls. Instead, I let my robe slip just slightly at the shoulder. Not enough to be wrong, but enough to be reckless. His breath hitched. I heard it, felt it. My pulse slammed against my ribs like it was trying to break free. Behind the wall, another laugh, hers, and my husband's voice, warm and careless, as if nothing in this world could burn. But I was burning. And he was already stepping closer. His nearness was suffocating, not because I wanted him gone, but because every inch between us begged to disappear. The heat from his body rolled toward me like a forbidden tide, and I let it touch me without moving an inch. "I shouldn't be here," he said finally, voice husky, breaking the silence like a blade through silk. "Then leave," I whispered, but my words lacked conviction. We both heard it. My eyes betrayed me, searching his face like it held answers to questions I was too scared to ask. His jaw clenched. He didn't move. Instead, his gaze fell to my robe again, to that careless slip that revealed a whisper of skin. His fingers flexed at his side like they were aching for permission neither of us had given. And in that moment, something twisted in my chest, a mix of desire and anger. Not at him, at my husband. At the sound of his laugh, still floating from the other suite, deep and easy, as if tonight was just another night. Maybe it was. Maybe for him, this trip was about nothing more than escape. But for me, escape now stood 3 feet away, staring at me like I was the only thing in this world worth risking everything for. "You think I don't see it?" His voice was low, steady. "The way he looks at her like you stopped existing." The words hit like a storm. Sharp. True. My throat tightened. I wanted to deny it, but what was the point? He wasn't wrong. I had seen it, too. Those lingering touches at dinner. The way her laughter lit something in him that hadn't burned for me in years. "And you?" I asked softly, tilting my head, letting the question hang like smoke. "Why are you here?" His eyes locked on mine, darker now, almost dangerous. "Maybe because I'm tired of pretending," he said. And then, as if gravity itself had chosen sides, he stepped closer, so close that the scent of his cologne wrapped around me like an invisible arm, pulling me into a choice I swore I'd never make. The handle of the connecting door rattled faintly, a sound that should have stopped us. But the faint rattle of the door faded, replaced by silence so heavy it pressed against my skin. His eyes stayed locked on mine, the storm inside them darker than before. For a moment, neither of us moved because if we did, the world as we knew it would shatter. Then slowly he reached past me, not to touch, not yet, but to take the champagne flute from the nightstand. His fingers brushed mine, light as a whisper. But the spark that leapt between us could have set the bed ablaze. My breath stilled, my pulse wild. He handed me the glass without breaking eye contact. His voice low, almost a growl. "You're shaking." "No, I'm not," I lied, gripping the stem so tight it could snap. The bubbles fizzed softly, mocking the chaos in my veins. "You are," he said, stepping closer. 1 step, 2, until the edge of his suit brushed the silk of my robe, until his shadow swallowed mine. I should have stopped him. I should have moved. Instead, I stayed burning in a fire I had no business touching. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered again, weaker this time, as if I wanted him to argue. His smile was slow, dangerous. "Neither should you." The room shrank around us, the walls closing in until it felt like there was nothing but his breath and mine, colliding in the charged space between our lips. I could see the curve of his mouth now. So close it blurred. And for one dizzying second, I imagined what it would feel like. His kiss, his hands, the end of everything I promised I'd never break. A sudden burst of laughter exploded from the other suite. Hers bright and sharp, like a reminder slicing through the heat. My chest tightened. Guilt should have stopped me, but guilt felt like a ghost here, fading in the glow of what was real, what was pulsing through both of us. He set the glass down slowly, deliberately. Then his hand lifted, hovering near my face, close enough for the warmth to seep into my skin. 1 more inch and I'd feel him. 1 more inch and there'd be no turning back. The connecting door creaked. Tia didn't. The door creaked wider, a soft groan that froze us both mid-breath. For a second, I thought it was over. That this was the moment everything unraveled. But no one entered. The shadow behind the door flickered and vanished, leaving only silence in its wake. His hand still hovered near my face, trembling with a restraint that matched my own. And then he touched me. Just his fingertips grazing my cheek like a secret he'd kept too long. My breath caught. And in that fragile pause, the world outside ceased to exist. "You feel it, too," he whispered. Not a question. A truth. I didn't answer. Couldn't. The answer pulsed through every inch of me, louder than words. And then his lips were on mine. Soft at first, almost cautious, like tasting sin for the first time, but deepening when I didn't pull away. My fingers curled into the sheets, every nerve alive, screaming at me that this was wrong, and yet so achingly right. The kiss was fire. It burned away everything, guilt, promises, reason, until there was only heat, hunger, and the thundering of my own heart. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine, and I felt his breath tremble against my lips. "I can't stop," he said, voice raw. "You should," I whispered. But even as the words left me, my hands betrayed me, clutching his shirt like I needed him to stay. And then the twist that shattered everything. The door burst open. Not her, him, my husband. For a heartbeat. The room held nothing but shock, his eyes locking on us, lips parted, breath sharp like a blade drawn in silence. My stomach dropped cold and heavy as the reality slammed in. But then I saw it. Not rage, not heartbreak, something else, something that stole the air from my lungs. Relief. My husband stepped inside, slow and deliberate, eyes flicking to the man still standing close enough to feel my heat. Then to me, and then he smiled. A smile I didn't recognize. "You finally stopped pretending," he said softly, almost amused. "What?" The word tore from my throat, raw and small. His gaze slid past me to the man behind me. "Guess that makes us even." And then I heard it, a laugh, low feminine, from the doorway behind him. Her standing there leaning against the frame like this was a game she'd been winning all along. The room tilted. The ground vanished. And I realized this night wasn't an accident. It was a plan. The silence after her laugh was deafening. It rang in my ears, sharp and cruel, as I tried to piece together what had just happened. My husband stood in the doorway, his smile calm, too calm, while her eyes glittered like secrets come to life. "You," my voice cracked, breaking under the weight of everything. "You knew." He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped further inside, his hands in his pockets like this was nothing more than an interesting conversation. "Knew." His tone was soft, almost mocking. "I arranged it." The air left my lungs. My world spun. "You what?" Her laugh came again, lighter this time, dripping with satisfaction. "Oh, don't look so shocked," she said, sauntering into the room like she owned it. Her perfume hit me first, sweet and heavy, before her hand slid along my husband's arm in a gesture that spoke volumes. "You felt it too, haven't you? That emptiness." Her words sliced through me, leaving raw wounds I couldn't hide. My eyes darted to him, desperate for denial, for something to make sense of this madness. But his gaze was steady, unflinching. "You stopped looking at me a long time ago," he said, voice calm, almost gentle. "And I kept wondering why keep pretending." Tears burned the back of my eyes, but anger pushed through like fire. "So you set me up?" My voice rose, sharp, trembling with betrayal. "No," he said firmly, stepping closer now, his expression hardening. "I gave you what you wanted, but were too afraid to take." His eyes flicked toward the man still standing near me, silent, but tense, guilt and desire written across his face. Her hand slid to my husband's chest as she smirked. "And it looks like it worked perfectly." Something in me snapped. I stood, the silk robe falling tighter around me as I faced all three of them, heart pounding so loud it drowned out reason. "This isn't a game," I spat. "This is my marriage." Was she corrected, her smile cruel? My husband didn't argue. He just looked at me with a strange mix of pity and resolve, like a man who had already made peace with the wreckage. So he said softly, "What now?" The room seemed to shrink, every breath heavy with unspoken choices. The man behind me took a step closer, his voice slow, almost pleading. "Come with me." And for one suspended moment, I stood on the edge of everything: rage, heartbreak, and a hunger that refused to die. The silence after his words was thick enough to choke on. My pulse roared, my breath shallow as the weight of every choice pressed against me. Her smirk, his calm stare, the man behind me silent, but his presence burned like a brand on my skin. I turned slowly, meeting his eyes, the man who had almost ruined me, or maybe saved me. His gaze was raw, stripped of pretense, and in it I saw something my husband hadn't given me in years' need. Not lust alone, but something deeper, something terrifying in its honesty. "Come with me," he whispered again, his voice softer now, trembling with urgency. For a heartbeat, I hesitated. Everything in me screamed to stay safe, to retreat, to cling to the life I knew, even if it was hollow. But then my husband spoke, and his words shattered what little doubt I had left. "Go," he said simply. No anger, no plea, just surrender. I turned to him, tears burning my lashes. "Why?" His eyes softened, tired and sad. "Because we're both chasing ghosts. And maybe you deserve to feel alive again." Her fingers curled possessively around his arm. And in that gesture, I saw the truth. He'd already chosen. He'd chosen long before tonight. My chest ached, but it wasn't pain. It was release. The kind that comes when you stop fighting gravity. I nodded slowly, then reached for the man behind me. His hand closed around mine instantly, firm, grounding, pulling me into a reality that felt terrifying and beautiful all at once. We left the room without another word. The hallway was silent, lit by soft golden lights, but my heart was a storm. He didn't speak until we reached the elevator, his hand still clutching mine like he'd never let go. When the door slid shut, he turned to me, cupping my face with both hands, his breath ragged. "Tell me this isn't a mistake." I stared up at him, the man who had broken every rule in one night, and yet I couldn't feel an ounce of regret. "It's the first thing that feels real," I whispered. And then his lips claimed mine again. Not tentative this time, but with a fierce, desperate certainty of two souls colliding. The kiss tasted like freedom, like beginnings. When we finally broke apart, his forehead rested on mine, and in the quiet hum of the elevator, I whispered the truth I'd been running from all along. "I'm not going back." And for the first time in years, my heart felt